Hi, Tao. I wanted to leave you some feedback on your week one writing assignment. First off, let's talk about your formatting. Your heading looks great. Just don't forget over here with your header, you want to include your last name along with the page number. Um, I think you have an excellent handle on Orwell's essay. I think this second part, what you have named part two, critical thinking of a hanging, you could essentially expand on this and use it for essay one. You have really clear key points. You have evidence brought into the text to support the key ideas. Um, and oh man, just the way that you've structured this is really good, and all of your insights are right on. They're clear. You've supported them with evidence, and you've explained them in detail, which is exactly what you need to do. The place that needs a little bit of work is the summary here, right? So let's talk about that, and then I'll give you some overarching feedback again. So you have created a signal phrase. Great work there, where you're introducing the author and the title. One thing to keep in mind when you introduce an author for the first time into your paper, make sure you state their full name, right? So you want to state in George Orwell's story called A Hanging, so on and so forth. And then every other time, it's perfectly acceptable to refer to the author by his last name. But that very first time that you introduce him, make sure you state his full name. Um, yeah, so I really like this opening sentence in that it captures what happens. This sentence right here needs a little bit of work along with the examples that you bring in to support the idea. So I see what you're doing there. You're responding to the list that I created for you guys in terms of the items that you need to have in a summary. And in terms of meeting the bulleted list, all the items are there, but as a paragraph that clearly captures the main idea and how Orwell expresses that to the reader, it's not quite there yet, right? And what it feels like to me is you're moving too fast, right? You need to slow down your pace and really explain what you mean here, right? Uh, because as a reader, and this is one of the weird things that we have to do when we write summaries, is we can't assume that the reader is necessarily familiar with the text, right? So you can't include every single little plot detail in the text, but you do need to explain enough information to help the reader know how this idea, oops, start over again, how this idea leads you to this idea. Does that make sense? And the way this stands now, there's no clear connection between those things. So I think you have all the right ideas in this paragraph. There's just too many gaps. So this is one area that, should you choose to write about Orwell for essay one, I would want you to work on. This could really work as a thesis statement, and these could all really work as body paragraphs to support a thesis statement. I think the only thing that you're missing there is, does his appeal work? Meaning, so you say he argues against capital punishment by appealing to a moral sense. So to make that arguable, what you want to say is, does his use of appeals work for the reader? And if so, why? And I think it's implied that you are arguing that it does work based on the paragraphs that you have here. You just need to state your position more explicitly. So, he effectively argues, or he successfully argues, or you might even give another sentence here to say that what he does here is essentially successful. Your paragraphs are working great here. The only thing that I noticed is to make sure that anytime you bring in a direct quotation, make sure that you cite it, right? So in this, and in most of the sentences I just caught a few here and there. you refer to him as the writer here. That means that you're going to have to include the parenthetical citation at the end, because even though you said the writer, you still didn't include Orwell's name. And in MLA, we always have to give credit to the author. So as a whole, I think this is really working. Like I said, here's the area to focus on, more clearly capturing the summary. And should you choose to write about Orwell, which I think you have an excellent start here, consider this a potential thesis, and all you need to do is more explicitly include your position. So great work.